All right, hello, here we are. I am the Inwit Robin, here to break down this week's episode of Survivor 41, episode 3. My big $1 million mistake, I think this episode's called. Um, Things are starting to get a bit more interesting as we get on in with strategy starting to play around a bit more. But first, before we touch on our new Beware advantage that enters play today, we will touch on a bit of Naseer, my joyful Naseer making a huge error, which, from what we gather, for anyone who plays the game within a game at home, and maybe on the next time on Survivor, he's now put himself in a bit of a dangerous situation that his tribe potentially want to throw a challenge to maybe get him out. Or Sydney, who knows, but pretty sure it's probably going to be Naseer. So Naseer goes to Sydney late at night and tries to force a strategic talk. Obviously, strategy talks are really important, but to wake someone up in the middle of the night, from the story we're getting, waking up Sydney and saying we need to do A, B, and C is never going to go down well. There's a lot of things that you need to understand. Where your place in the tribe is socially is a very important part, and actually the social dynamics of the tribe. To say we need to get someone out, you need to be sure everybody is on the same page. You need to be certain. You can't just demand that people go out. And this is it's a common mistake you see throughout the history of Survivor, that if I want someone gone, I'm telling you that we need to get this person out. Where very rarely, but the much better approach is to work with someone is to find out who they want gone and work with them. This is my opinion, that the idea to power is allowing other people to perceive they have power. By demanding this is what you want to do, and this is how we should do it, and meaning the other person just becomes a passenger, they have no reason to work with you. Unless you are on top of the social politics of your tribe and know exactly where everybody is feeling, and we know we do want to get out Danny, or we do want to get out the Shan, the two Naseer's throwing under the bus, then maybe you can approach it in a way by saying, I know we need to get this person out, or I want to get this person out. But you need to understand what everyone else's feelings are about this. If you just want to get out someone because they're Danny, because he's an ex-NFL player and he's a big threat come later on in the game physically, as far as what we've seen, and we're not seeing much of the Lavu tribe or Luva tribe. I'm going to get the names right this time, I swear. The Luva tribe, purely because they don't need to go to council at the moment. They're still a tribe of 6. No one has seemed to have found much as far as their idol is still hiding out on the beach. So we're not getting too much information, but Danny isn't pulling screen time. Even when we're over there. So as far as a strategic threat, he probably isn't much of one. He might be a good is fitting in socially really well, and he's obviously a physical threat. But that's not a reason, I don't think, to be throwing that name out. And we see how it literally backfires by thinking Sydney is on the same page. Out of everybody, Sydney would be the last person I think would be on the same page as Naseer. So it's a really bad social read of the tribe dynamics, and that's something really important. If you can't read your tribe socially, or the social dynamics within that tribe, you better sit back and start to have a look at things. But anyway, we move across. That's just, Naseer has really started to dig his own grave, unfortunately, because I do enjoy him. I think he's a lot of fun. And also, a guy who, someone who can make fire like that and grew up in that poverty world where survival, the game survivor's survival element was just part of everyday life. I kind of like. So he's got a joy for the game, but unfortunately, strategically, he's made a very big blue, and that's not going to do well for him going down the track unless they can avoid a tribal, or he can turn things around, and we can talk about that when we talk about Ua. Anyway, we go into Ua, Yasa, and Lavu all have their little secret new beware advantage of tarp versus a group reward being a tarp and a solo award being a steal a vote. Brad finds it for Yasa. We've got Sydney for Luva and Tiff for Ua. And we also have that moment where, unfortunately, Liliana has her little moment at the start saying she really wanted to vote out Xander, and she's upset she didn't get to make a big move. She's upset that she let Tiffany kind of control that, and then Tiffany then finds the next thing that she was sitting right by. She missed it completely. This is potentially a good thing for Xander, funnily enough, because Liliana now needs to step out of this shadow that Tiffany has cast, and she's so desperate. She's so desperate that she is in tears that she needs to make a big move. So another great little moment for Xander, that could a crack for Xander to find a little way forward. But if we're lucky, actually no. Now that Brad's gone, that changes everything. But if the idol was in play next week and they do go to tribal, he could survive through playing his idol. Though the way it's looking, it's just, playing a game where where your head's on the chopping block and you survive that one time, and then you've got another 3 days till that tribal comes around. 3 days is a long time in Survivor. Even if it's a short game, you can get your head off the chopping block pretty easily if you find those cracks. And again, as I just said with Naseer, social dynamics within the tribe, social politics within the tribe, that's your key to getting off the bottom. So anyway, it's the beware you will lose your vote if you do not get on this boat. Brad's now starting to become the Xander of Ua, as he has all the advantages. He's got the same as Brad. He's got the same as Xander. Xander's got an extra vote. Brad's got a steal a vote. So very similar, but Brad's got now the immunity option. They go across to the island, to this little hut, and get to decide. And it's this debate of steal a vote or tarp. Sydney wants to play it safe. Tiff plays it a bit coy, but ultimately wants to play it safe and screws up her chance of potentially getting anything out of it, or Sydney screws Sydney's chance of getting anything out of it because she plays it coy. And Brad is playing for himself and takes the solo advantage. Personally, here this is a great time to. What are we, day 9? We're somewhere between day 7 and day 9 at the moment, which can't be right. They can't be doing tribals every 3 days like they used to. I don't know, but original length Survivor, 3 days every tribal, might be 2 days every tribal at the moment. So somewhere between day 6 to 9, we're floating around. Still early days. We haven't had a mix-up. There's been no changing of tribe dynamics. There's been no swaps. We're not near merge yet. This selfish play by Brad is ultimately something that he is also unaware of social dynamics within his tribe. We've talked about Brad, or I've talked about Brad for the last couple of episodes so far. He's made a lot of mistakes. He's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. He's fun to watch, but made a lot of errors. And this is another one. But first, telling Shan everything. Just no need to tell her everything. If someone's with you when you find an idol, sure, you might have to bring them in, but I think if he was able to keep his cool and calm, he could have found that idol. And you can do that if you're off hunting an idol with your with your alliance or your number 1 or number 2, even though Shan apparently is his number 2. Then Jenny. Oh man, I thought I was going to get all the names right today. And she's a little bit over there, and he finds it over here. Pocket it. Don't worry. But he starts to get excited, calls her over, and sure, that's great for your little alliance, but it's not ever great for you. And then he goes to Shan, who's apparently his number 1, which means you can't have, I don't know, who's your number 1? You got 1 or 2. And Shan, as we've been saying, has put herself in a really great position where everyone seems to trust her. But she seems to be mostly aligned with Ricard. So, big mistake for telling Shan, because you keep this stuff safe. JD said it. You don't want to tell anyone about your idols, and you also don't want to make people, or your advantages. You don't want people to see your advantage either. So JD might say the right thing there, but he's an absolute idiot by walking back with a little paper hanging out of his pocket. But I digress. Here we've got Brad going in about, he's going in at like full strength, full speed, no slowing down. And he says that, this is something I've been saying right from the start of this season. Yes, it's shorter. Yes, you may think you need to speed up and play the game faster, but this is a time for you to slow down. And when he gets his exit little interview, I should have played slower. I should have slowed down. No shit. Take your time. Understand what is happening. You don't need to make the big moves on day 1. No one's going to remember it on day 1 anyway. Make him come merge. Build that trust. Build that dynamics. In this situation where all 3 of them from different tribes, ideally, you would want to be trying to coerce the other tribe players here from opposing tribes that the tarp is probably your best move right now in this early game. That said, Ua sleeping on the ground. I don't even think they've got a bloody shelter. What the hell? They just got little patches of the sand they're sleeping on. Have they built a shelter? Have I missed that? Where's the shelter? Why are they sleeping on the sand? Tarp is a really great strategic move here. Right now, if people, especially if Shan, if you're aware of what's going on at Tribe, you're now a threat because you've got you're packing all this stuff. If you come back from this night away with a tarp, and this was your choice, you have now built social capital within your tribe. Rather than coming back empty-handed, I got nothing, you could have manipulated everyone. All 3 tribes got tarp. Those 3 players increased their standing in the game, most likely. Meaning you shouldn't be thought about going home because you're currently still thinking about the tribe. And even though it's a solo game and you've got to be thinking about yourself and there's only one winner, by thinking about the tribe is a really great solo move most of the time in the early days. By putting the tribe first makes you less of a threat, makes you seem like you're someone the tribe can trust or someone you can trust or other people can trust. And it just makes you less of the eyes peering at you. And when you have a tribe of 6 starting off, and in one case a tribe, and now 2 cases, 2 tribes of 4, you want to keep those eyes off you. Having a little steal a vote that can be, yeah, sure, you can use that till final 6. Great, big whoop. Again, advantages are awesome if you play them correctly. JD says it well. Everyone on the internet talks about how no one plays idols correctly because they don't. This is a little easier to play correctly because you just steal the vote from the person you want going home. This person's going home tonight, but by doing that, you also expose the fact that this person's being voted for, or this person's alliance is being voted for. So if someone on that opposite alliance that you're trying to take out has an idol that you are unaware of, doesn't matter if you steal their vote. You can have all the votes in the world piled on a JD, but JD plays a necklace, or a Xander, or any of them play a necklace for the person you're voting for. Your steal a vote becomes irrelevant anyway. By lowering his threat, or every one of those 3 talking about, and no one did, everyone talked about the solo element. You go steal a vote. No. The solo element is within that team. It's that common phrase, there's no I in team. And you want the I to be in the team. You want them to find that level of reliability so you can not be on the chopping block. And of course, if you've got idols, if you've got advantages, your threat's raising. And in modern Survivor, most people with an idol or an advantage, everyone else wants to flush it. They want to get rid of that really quickly so it goes out in play so they can hopefully get it and hopefully not make the same mistakes you did by telling someone else. And ultimately, they do tell someone most of the time and it gets flushed again and the cycle repeats. So the best strategic move here would have been to get everyone on board to take the tarp, because there is no gain in just having a stealer vote. Yes, there is gain, but the gain is a deep playoff. You're not stealing a vote early. You're only stealing a vote if you are desperate early, but you want to keep these advantages till endgame. Whereas a tarp will get you to endgame. Stealing a vote might not. And as we see, it doesn't. And he didn't realize he was on a massive threat before leaving. That said, really love how Brad made a little body. That was really awesome. But he didn't understand he was a massive threat before leaving. So if he could just potentially think that me having all this power would make me a threat, remove a little bit of power and give some to the team, give something back, is always really important. So a big blunder here that I think 3 people could have walked away with great social capital. And that social capital is like putting money in the bank. The more you have in there, the bigger your deposit can come later on. So if you want to build that stash, you want to build that trust, you want to build that capital, so when the time comes, you can withdraw and use it against everybody else. But anyway, we go ahead and we see Yasser finally win. Xander goes last, or we also have Brad saying he's weird. Incorrect. I'm a stick with fuzzy hair and broccolis are like to grow on trees. No, completely wrong phrase. I don't know if they could allow the idol to be activated with that terrible phrase. But we have that little moment of Xander and Brad on the pontoon. I'm with you, we've got it. We just need one more. This idol's activated. Exciting, great. Obviously, we don't need to talk. Not too much happens. It's just a game. Xander comes back and gets a little win while we have JD doing... I don't know if anyone knows, but I know quite a few people like a JD. I know one in particular that think they're the best at everything, that talk themselves up. And JD's that guy. We had that moment where he was talking himself up about how much of an athlete he is because he ran some state runs next to a professional NFL player who talked himself down. Talking yourself up is never a good thing, because when you don't deliver, you look like an absolute moron. And he looked like an absolute moron, and the editors had a bit of fun giving him ridiculous music while he tried to alley-oop a sandbag onto the platform like a knob. But as I said, Survivor will eventually humble him, and that's a starting for him to be humbled. And then he goes off to the toilet and he comes back and his advantage is sticking out of his pants. Like, what the hell? And then he has to... Shan has the correct idea of like, we got to get rid of him because he's hiding things. But does that matter that he was like... It's weird that Ricard and Shan were really upset that he was hiding an advantage, because they would have done the same. And if they didn't want to do the same, and if they could honestly say to themselves that they would have told JD about the advantage, they're idiots and they're lying. Or they're idiots. Because you shouldn't. JD's correct. You shouldn't tell anyone about your advantage. Knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more power you have. The more people know that knowledge, the less power it becomes. So having 3 people out of 5 know that you have an extra vote means you're very, very easy to be manipulated and removed. And then he does another stupid thing, and even though he thinks he's a baller player or whatever it says, he gives the vote to Shan to build the trust back because he broke it so badly. You don't win trust with idols and advantages. It's a stupid play. Just because he didn't go home doesn't mean it's an amazing play. It's a stupid play to give it up. Really, really stupid play. You know what? If he was worried about it, he could have burnt it maybe. Just chuck it in the fire, then it's non-existent. It's gone. I've got rid of the advantage. I don't have it. If he wanted to sacrifice something, but giving it to someone else is now Like he said, I'm in your debt. No, you don't. Oh, you don't want to be in anyone's debt. It was a stupid play to give up his to build that trust back, because now, sure, he didn't go home this time, but he could quite easily go home the next time, because he's again not in the best situation. He's tight with who? No one. He's the bottom of a 3 with a tight 2. Shan and Ricard don't need him. Shan and Ricard probably better off vote him out next time, and keep Janine, if that's her name, because they can just start to control. They can do whatever they want. That said, we now have Ricard, who has that conversation with Shan when Shan's like, we've got to get rid of JD, and she's like, well, he's like, we should keep JD. He's slimy, but we can't trust him. You can trust Brad. I've been saying that. You can trust Brad to do something stupid continuously, because he's honest. It's the sneaky ones. It's the dishonest ones that you can't trust. It's Captain Jack Sparrow. That's what it is. Brad, like, yeah, sure, Ricard doesn't have the trust with Brad, but Shan knows Brad trusts her with everything. So in turn, she has the power to then make sure Ricard feels Brad's easily controlled. I would have also probably got rid of Brad anyway. I've been saying Brad probably should have gone. He hasn't been playing well enough since day one. But it's an interesting situation you have where that becomes Brad or a JD. And Shan being in control. Ricard here has an opportunity to make a move, because sometimes the swing vote, sometimes the middle place, and it's out of your control, is, well, she's in the middle. Why is she in the middle? She has more social capital. She has more relationships. She's more trustworthy than I am. Hence, she's more of a threat than I am. Unfortunately, Ricard has this grudge that he won't let go with Janine, or Jenny, or whatever her name, has this grudge, and we see it come up at Tribal Council. But where does that get you? That doesn't do anything to have that against you, because what he could have done is, if I know he trusts Shan, and this is a big play and probably the incorrect play, but this is an opportunity to move. When someone goes, oh, well, I just have to hope she sides with me. Sure, she probably will side with you, great. But what if she didn't side with you? Now you're the bottom. You're on the bottom of the pecking order because you got no one to go to. Well, you found that she's sided with the other alliance. This is where you potentially, I wouldn't probably do it in this case, but there is a move to be made. Strategically, you should be able to see that Shan has some power because people like her, people trust her. And she's now in the middle, and she decides who goes. And that's okay, because you don't always have to decide who goes. But if that's a warning sign to you, this is a chance for him, if he's not holding a grudge, to move around and end up, if Shan doesn't want to commit right now in front of me and say, yeah, look, I hear you, I would like to vote out JD, but you're right, Brad is probably the smartest decision. If she doesn't want to do that in front of me, and I need her to, well, I'm going to get rid of her. I'm going to move around here. I'm going to talk to this alliance. I'm going to show how this girl has so much power, how she is very, very strong and no one can see it, and why she's a threat in the end. This is probably something I'd be doing more so later on, late game. Bit too early, but it is a move that Ricard could make. It is a thought process that should cross his mind. Hang on a second. Is she with me? Isn't she with me? I need confirmation. And if I can't get confirmation, I need to work out some other way. But he doesn't. And anyway, we get the standard vote of Brad going home and JD begging and saying how much he lost everyone's trust. Again, he will be humbled more by Survivor. This hasn't been his humbling. He definitely will be humbled more by Survivor. But pieces are starting to move. What happens next week? We do get that little information of there's going to be someone's going to want to throw a challenge. Shan looks like he wants to throw the challenge to potentially get rid of Naseer. In this situation, don't think this is a smart move. More often than not, throwing a challenge I don't think is a smart move. We'll break that down next week if it happens, because the whole tribe has to be on board, and it probably will happen. Or it might be one of those red herrings that the editors throw out there to get us hooked. But to throw a challenge to get rid of the person, if it is Naseer, who is actually on the bottom, seems like a waste of time. Whenever you guys lose a challenge, he's gone anyway. And if he's on the bottom of this tribe, what are the chances of him being on the top of another tribe come switch? Alliances have been formed, he's going to slip in and he'll probably be on the bottom of another alliance. Naseer's no threat. The only reason you want to throw a challenge, most times people want to throw a challenge is because they just can't stand being at the campsite with that person. Not the reason to throw a challenge. The reason to throw a challenge is to take out someone who is, you would consider probably an invincible player. Someone who just looks like they could go all the way. Maybe they're a physical, social, they've got everything. You want to blindside them. Blindsiding them, you could potentially throw a challenge. But to get rid of a challenge because you don't like someone and you can't stand them, incorrect reason to throw a challenge. But if it does happen, it's a bit hard to see Naseer getting out. He doesn't have much going on unless 2 idols are found or he rolls his dice. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Sydney go home either. Sydney isn't a strong player here. She's opening her mouth and spilling the beans too much. And that's something I said prior, that you want to keep that information sometimes. You just have a big laugh to everybody, but what are you doing to everyone else when you're not there? What is she saying when you're not there? Is a thought that would probably cross most people's mind. If she's going to be like that with me while I'm around, what is she? And while that other player isn't around, what is she like when I'm not around? Could cost her, and that I feel like it would probably be between Naseer and Sydney, if Luva go to tribal. I would love to see Xander keep going. Xander looks like I'm a big fan of Xander, even though he made a big mistake last week. A big fan of him. Love his idol to be activated, and it's just 3 more days. We didn't see much of Evie this week, and that's okay. There wasn't much to see with Yasa. Yasa, as they got a night off, they get their flint back. They could probably try and eat some food. Otherwise, that's my little recap, and what I think should potentially unfold next week. We'll see a little battle between Naseer and Sydney, but who knows. Anyway, hope you guys are watching and enjoying. Thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, do the bits and bobs, and please keep enjoying Survivor.